Before this video begins, I'd like to let you know that post-content does include themes of pretty dark content. If you're sensitive to the themes of depression, suicide, anxiety, or anything of that sort, please do exercise viewer discretion while you watch this video. Thank you, and enjoy. On December 23, 2018, PostContent made their first upload. Over the next 9 months until the most recent upload in September, the videos attracted the attention of many viewers and internet investigators alike. Today I'm going to analyze these videos one at a time in order to develop and deliver a final theory on what I believe is going on. So without further ado, let's get started. The first video, titled Another Shitty Night, begins rather abruptly as our narrator seems to be recording himself in the middle of a situation. As he stands up, we can see that the floor has a tarp over it, giving us some rather dreadful connotations. As the narrator explains that the door just opened, he peers behind it to reveal something twitching and watching him in the background. He turns around to walk towards his desk, only to reveal what seems to be a bucket of blood as he pauses the video he has on in the background. He then returns back to the door and opens it, where we get this jump scare before he slams the door. He then turns to his computer and unpauses his video, titled Relaxing Music for Stress Relief, and we can see a note stuck to the top of the computer reading Life is like an ice cream. Keep this in mind because this quote is repeated in the next video, which was uploaded on Christmas 2018 and goes as follows.
The mind is an ocean, and the waves are your thoughts. So stay on land, will you? Everyone knows how it is to feel undesirable, and many fail to realize the simple solution. Yesterday's bad energy is history, so move past it. See? It's behind you now, so keep moving. And if you feel yourself slipping, just remember, life is an ice cream. Enjoy it before it melts.
It should be noted that whoever runs the post-content account has commented on this video stating that the video we see is only the second half of a longer video and that the first half got cut off. They say that the second half is the better half anyway. The third video is titled Vlog, and the beginning of the video is focused down the hallway as our narrator explains what we're watching exactly. He says that it's a vlog, so we have to listen to what he says, and then he says we should ring the notification bell and remember to do something, but he forgets what, so he sets the camera down and listens to another YouTuber say it.
Anyways, I love you guys. If you're not subscribed, make sure to subscribe. New York City pop-up shop details coming soon. Get your Maverick merch at logoball.com/shop, and I will see y'all tomorrow. Take it easy, fam. Kong, you got this one.
The next video is an encounter tutorial and explains how to deal with the monster we see in front of us. His explanation for defeating this monster is turning around and then turning back around, and suddenly it's gone. However, when he's turned around, we see what appears to be a body. We don't know what our narrator could be doing with it, and it's definitely unsettling to say the least. After this video, we get an update on the encounter. In this video, he talks about how he's fine, but he got attacked and proceeded to kick the assailant. That's about all that happened in the encounter update video. The next video is very odd. It's titled Constraint Tutorial. In this video, the narrator says he doesn't like looking into reflections because he doesn't know what he might see. When he looks away, the object in the mirror gets closer. After discussing further strategies to get rid of this apparition and looking at it in a certain way, it begins to cry black, disappearing into the abyss. Afterwards, this happens.
And there we go. I think I'll try and catch some sleep. Have a good night.
Yesterday's bad energy is history, so move past it. See? It's behind you now. It's behind you now. It's behind you now. It's behind you.
Now we know what the bucket of blood means. In the video titled House Tour, we get a look around his house. The narrator seems apprehensive, pausing before he opens the door or completely shrugging off the bathroom door being locked, as well as the noises that are coming out of it. As he walks through the rest of his house, we see that every bit of furniture is covered up. Once he reaches the downstairs area, he says this.
And here we are. Here we are. Huh. Doesn't seem that bad, actually. Thanks, YouTube, for helping me make this step. Yes. Yes.
Keep this in the back of your mind as we continue. In the indifference tutorial, the camera is focused on the body bag we've seen in earlier videos. The body bag appears to be hanging from the ceiling and rocking back and forth with a quite disturbing noise. Throughout the video, the narrator, using subtitles, explains that it's his fault and that there's something behind him he's attempting to ignore. After a little while, the bag stops shaking and he seemingly dozes off before his phone buzzes, snapping his attention back to the bag. The bag drops from the ceiling and the video ends. The next video is called Eating Healthy, and the narrator reveals he feels bad all the time, but that a friend once told him to eat healthier. He mentions that since his friend likely won't come over, he's making this video to show his friend that he's eating healthy. He then takes out and begins eating lettuce. The video ends after that. Following that video, we get Trial, which shows whoever's in the body bag walking around at the start. The narrator quickly moves to his room where this happens.
So I've been thinking, why does everything have to be so dark and terrifying all the time? It doesn't need to be, right? So why not break the rules? Shit. Let's try it, shall we? That really is too fucking weird.
After that, the video ends. His next upload is titled My Living Room and starts with him saying that he believes something broke into his house and that his living room is a mess. He then proceeds downstairs to his living room where we see that it is completely destroyed. He then asks us if there's anything we think could have happened, and the video ends. The next video shows the apparition sitting in the corner watching him. The narrator groans about him being too loud and that he's trying to sleep. Then we see that the phone is ringing. Once picked up, this happens.
What?
What do you think you're doing? Let's face it, your life is miserable. You won't admit it, but you're doing this to yourself. Why do you insist on keeping everything so dark in here? That's not helping your mental situation. But it hurts, doesn't it? You've actually managed to convince yourself that living in these conditions is somehow favorable. My god, your room is a mess. Do you really think you can help anyone before giving this place a good scrubbing? Here's a thought. Maybe your precious audience could help you.
The video after that happens, the narrator confronts the apparition. The video abruptly cuts, showing the narrator picking up his ringing phone before presumably smashing it. The video ends and we move on to the next one, titled Solution. Solution is drawn out as the narrator makes his way downstairs to the tune of Macintosh 420. The narrator then approaches a chair asking to be taken away. When he does this, something begins snaking around him and constricting him, and the narrator falls away from the light before waking up in a field outside of his home. Everything seems serene and peaceful until he enters his house. He makes his way back to the chair, and then we witness what can only be described as an out-of-body experience. After poking around, the video ends. The next video is titled DIY Body Disposal, and we can see a drastic change in tone. The video goes through the steps to dispose of a body with a nice lighthearted theme to contrast the dark message of the video. After that, we get a final update where the narrator explains that he doesn't have anything more to teach and that everything worked out. After that, we get an unboxing video with a package from EasyGo Solutions, which is a whole nother situation I'll be covering in a moment. Unboxing the package, we see his old broken phone. After removing the bottom of the package, there's a bottomless pit that the narrator then throws the phone into. The video ends after. The Q&A video starts off with the narrator walking outside, observing how sunny it is before deciding to go inside and do the Q&A. The Q&A seems to be a lethargic parody of regular Q&As on YouTube, and nothing too notable happens or is explained. The next video after that is short and is titled Sleep Paralysis and features the monster from the bag we've come to recognize. It begins crawling towards the screen and the video ends. Not much to deduce from this. The next video serves to show us that the outside area has changed once again, and the narrator walks around and investigates the area before stopping. After that, a video titled A Dream I Had shows us something rather disturbing. A woman without a face staring the narrator down and watching him. This woman gets close before leaving. Moving onwards, the next video is about a fan letter, and the letter goes as follows.
I had a dream about you. I was walking by the beach, and as the waves crashed against the shore, a bird landed next to me. I was the bird, and my reality was an invaluable gift that I wanted to share, but I was held in place. Affixed inseparably to a wide range of people who too wanted to share their experiences. That's when I saw you. Many people enjoy the gift of vision, and I for once was no different. I should have told more people I loved them while they still had the chance to love me back. It's not too late for you, and truly I wish you would escape this chaos, but alas, I am affected. And it's my duty to drag you down with me. Not just you. But I cannot do it without your help and consent, and thus it fills me with sorrow that you hand it over so easily. The question of real or false doesn't matter to them, so why should it matter to you? Besides, this is the only thing that's left. I cannot take responsibility for your frailty, and if you share this letter, you may come to regret it, but it would be hypocritical of me to stop you, so I won't. I love you.
This ties into the plotline with EasyGo Solutions and a particular blog spot. More on that later. The video after that is titled EasyGo Solutions and is a re-upload of the first EasyGo Solutions video and appears to be corrupted. In the description, we get a brief explanation as to what may be intended with the upload, but it's erratic at best. After that, we get a video titled Food Tutorial. The video starts with the narrator investigating the upstairs area before making his way downstairs to the sound of a buzzing phone. The narrator reassures himself, trying to get himself to calm down. The narrator then gets himself outside and begins following a rope to the body bag. Then he comes across a sign asking if he's hungry. There's more lettuce, and the narrator sets the camera down and begins eating it. The end of the video is Danish, but thanks to a helpful comment, we know it roughly translates to this. Why am I speaking English? You have to speak English if you want to be a YouTuber. But I am so tired. I can't remember a time before I was in this house. Our narrator begins puking again, and the video ends. The next video is a let's play of Minesweeper, which is alluded to back in the Q&A video. Something to notice here is the tabs in the background. Is she really my friend, and more so, how to tie a hangman's noose. There's also Easy Link access, which I will get to along with EasyGo Solutions in a bit. At the end of the Minesweeper video, we can see the narrator sitting in the chair. Something bothers him as he hears something, and then this happens. After that video, there are two others, Friend and Friend Mode Off. In Friend, our narrator paces around, giving a tirade of incoherent ramblings and self-loathing anecdotes. At the end of the video, he begins repeating ice cream, as a reference to the EasyGo video quote. The video ends as he repeats himself over and over and over again. The final video on the channel, uploaded September 20th, 2019, is Friend Mode Off, and begins differently than the rest. We have an unknown error. It then cuts to our narrator sitting down in front of his computer, rubbing his hands. The box has thrown his phone out, and the phone is still buzzing. Suddenly, a voice asks what he's watching before saying,
She was never here. Never your friend. Your ignorance fills me with sorrow.
Quickly, our narrator begins to stand up and become erratic before walking outside. As he makes his way to the chair, we hear the Macintosh music in the background creeping in. The narrator stands on top of the chair, wrapping himself up in the noose. He then proceeds to kick the chair and hang himself. After dangling for a bit, he gets off the rope and makes his way back inside, to the bathroom to take what I assume to be his medication. When he opens the bottle and goes to take them, however, he finds that his pills have been replaced with teeth. He then goes under the sink and finds some kind of chemical where he proceeds to ingest it. Then he makes his way back to his knife, sits down, and stabs himself with it. He repeatedly does so before sitting back to let himself die. However, it's revealed that he can't die, and his efforts to do so were futile. He then stands up and jumps into the box. After falling and receiving a please stand by message, we get to hear a conversation he has with himself.
Are you okay?
No. I'm sorry.
Don't be. It doesn't matter.
You know I threw that phone down here for a reason, right?
I know. I'm not sorry.
Hey, remember that time we did the house tour? That was pretty dope.
Yeah, it was.
I remember being really proud of the progress we made there.
Although it all kinda went downhill from then on.
But that doesn't make the accomplishment feel any less real.
I guess a small step is better than nothing.
A small step is
Better than nothing. Even if it means just forcing myself to brush my teeth a few times a week.
Or
Going grocery shopping. Getting some air. Actually, I might just do that right now. Want me to get you anything? Hello?
After this conversation, our narrator stands up and exits the box he was in, only to come into the old house, the non-destroyed one. The narrator makes his way upstairs back to his old room, where we see the faceless girl sitting in his chair. Stay and run are then presented to us, and each option's outcome is also presented. With that, the video asks us if we found what we were looking for, before saying maybe it's somewhere else. With the subject missing, the video ends, and with it, the series. I won't be going into too much depth with Easy Go Solutions, but it is a YouTube channel that's tied to the POSTContent storyline, so I decided to mention it. Their presence on the website and Twitter is vaguely professional, but with a tinge of something being off. Their videos do have hidden messages in them and some unlisted videos as well, but I'll be explaining them in my theory. There's a blog spot for our faceless character named Sophie Meager that goes in depth from the other side and explains her mindset as best she can. I won't be diving into full depth for this, but if you'd like to see this covered, I recommend Debunk File's video on the topic. Now, on to the explanation. Before I begin, I'd like to say that this is my own personal interpretation of the series, and it is entirely possible that I'm incorrect. These are the impressions I got through viewing the series. At the beginning of the series, we meet a narrator who is seemingly plagued by what he refers to as ghosts. Some of these videos are comical in nature, but the general gist of what we're viewing is a man who's grasping onto the last strings of his sanity, attempting to do YouTube videos to pass the time. In fact, that's all he ever seems to be doing. In the house tour video, he credits YouTube with finally getting him out of his room to go downstairs. He's obsessed with creating tutorials, and although our first impressions on him are very sinister from what we see, I'd like to argue that our narrator isn't a murderer at all. Before I go any further, I would like you to know one thing. The series, to me at least, is very allegorical. It is a very deep message conveyed through a very odd story. The body bag he's been tugging around isn't a dead body at all. It's him. In fact, from what we can see throughout the series, there are two versions of him. One who makes the videos and one who's trapped on the inside of a body bag is illustrated by the unlisted EGS videos. The second version of him, trapped inside the bag, is very pessimistic and constantly criticizes the first version of him, as we see in the error video.
What do you think you're doing? Let's face it, your life is miserable.
To me, the body bag signifies the inner baggage he has to carry around, the version of him that doesn't much care for himself. At the start of the series, we see a man who's plagued by ghosts that signify his inner self-loathing and hatred for himself. His inner anxieties. The only way he knows how to get rid of this other hate-filled version of himself is to do what makes him happy and try to contain the version of himself that criticizes him constantly. After the house tour, in the indifference tutorial, we see the body bag shaking like a cocoon with the sound of something hatching. His inner self is becoming uncontrollable. This is evident up until the solution video. I think that the solution video signifies the narrator finally accepting to join up with EasyGo Solutions, a corporate business he found through YouTube that promises him a better, easier life as long as he keeps creating content for them. The faceless face of the corporation is Sophia, and due to the company's promise, the narrator confuses Sophia for a friend, while his inner self knows that she isn't a friend, that it's just business.
Never your friend.
I say this because of the off-brand video that appears after the solution video, the DIY body disposal video with the happy music in the background. The same happy music that also plays during this EasyGo Solutions video. It's more than coincidence that the body disposal video appears twice on 2 separate accounts tied to this series. I believe this is because the body disposal video shows us a new, rebranded form of the narrator. He is no longer in control of his own creative content, thus surrendering himself and essentially killing himself off. He then moves to hide away the older version of himself, and he begins to make more content. But they aren't tutorials anymore, they're staged unboxing videos of packages sent from the corporation itself, or even a bit of fan mail still from the corporation. And because he surrendered himself over to the corporation and bottled up his own feelings of criticism, everything around him begins falling apart. His house is destroyed, he can't keep track of what the outside area looks like anymore, and every time we see him, it's as if he's become more and more apathetic, as if something is eating him from the inside out. Despite the fact that he disposed of the older version of himself, he can never truly get away from his baggage. Instead, he stays inside and makes tons of different types of YouTube videos, straying away from his tutorial videos. At the beginning of the Q&A, he says this.
Wow, it's so sunny. I say, since the weather is so nice, that we stay inside and do the Q&A. Fuck yeah.
He's ignoring everything else but his channel by this point. He then says this in the Q&A.
Corinne asks, why do you make YouTube videos and what do you expect the viewers to get out of them? I used to do it to help people, but I feel pretty useless at the moment. Right now I'm just happy people are watching. Not really sure what anybody would get out of this.
Notice that he doesn't say that he isn't sure what anyone could get out of his videos, but out of this structure of content. He also says this.
Frank Davis asks, how have the ghosts been? Anything new happening with them? Your tutorial videos were great, by the way. Oh, they were great, weren't they?
And finally, this.
Sweet Victory asks, ever think to start a gaming channel? Well, if my views don't fucking skyrocket, I might have to. I play some mean Minesweeper.
This all alludes to the fact that our narrator is not happy with this new, homogenized form of content. The fact that his content isn't what he wanted it to be, which was simple tutorials and the occasional vlog for variation. That now it's grown to be larger than what he wanted it to be in the first place. The change can also be seen in his thumbnails. More production seems to go into focusing on them when he used to auto-generate the thumbnails instead. Now they're big and eye-catching. In the second EasyGo Solutions video on the POSTContent page, it is corrupted because the narrator realizes that everything the company stood for is false. This is why he says connection is false. Hope is false. They don't want you to enjoy life while it lasts. They want their viewers to enjoy life while it lasts. This is why in the video Friend, our narrator repeats the word ice cream, because by this point, the company's motto versus the way it treats our narrator by always having him produce content is hypocritical. In the last video, we see the end of this vicious cycle. Our narrator contemplates suicide multiple times, even going as far as to straight up attempt to commit it several times. But the company will not allow him to do so. Instead, the company would rather keep him alive in agony even if he's sleeping on a moldy floor in a destroyed house. Eventually, it becomes too much to bear, and our narrator hops into the box, leaving what he thought was his dreams behind. And once he visits this dark place, he has a conversation with himself and realizes that it isn't so bad. Towards the end of the conversation, the voices begin to mimic each other before the other voice stops responding entirely. Now that the narrator has left the company, he has become one with himself. We see him exit the box, leaving behind his past self and stepping into his old house, which is now undestroyed. He has left the corporate machine. The virtual reality he once inhabited has been shaken off. When he re-enters his room, we see the faceless face of the company, Sophia. She asks him to reconsider and to stay. If you look at the whiteboard, the word stay exists with a dead smiley face, which I believe signifies that our narrator is better off dead should he choose to stay and make videos. However, on our narrator's arm, we see the word run, the gut instinct to turn away and forget about all this. Quite literally, a message from his inner self. We're then given two endings, one where he chooses to stay and one where he chooses to run, and the series ends on an open-ended note. As for the bizarre growing scenes that transpire during the end of this series, it could just be for effect, or it could signify the fact that his inner self is still inside of him and that it isn't leaving anytime soon. He isn't going to just stop being plagued by his inner demons anymore, but it's much better to try and confront it head on than to hide it behind a computer screen and try to sell yourself as something you're not. He still needs to find what he's looking for, as it may be somewhere else entirely. Maybe being a YouTuber isn't all it's cracked up to be. And with that, the series ends with subject missing, which I believe canonizes the ending where our narrator chooses to run. I know that I'm missing a part of this story, which is the easy go solutions side of the story, and I'm not addressing the parts of the series where reality seems to melt as if he's in a virtual world. I don't think he's actually in a simulation. I think that this signifies him being plugged in, watched, and controlled by the soulless system that he thinks is disgusting. That is why when he departs from the system, the subject is missing. Perhaps my explanation was the one you were looking for, or maybe it's somewhere else, in which case I urge you to check out the videos on POSTContent I've included in the description if you haven't seen them already. And do remember that life is like an ice cream. There's so many different flavors to choose from, so don't be a slave to one.